Hear a story since Larry had the problem with his throat. I'll tell you a problem about a woman that Cheryl and I went to minister to an Assembly of God church within the last year or two. Maybe it's been 2 years ago. I don't remember. A year. I guess it's been about a year, just a little over a year. That's right, about a year. Anyway, when we got there, the woman, the wife, she could barely talk. Cheryl got in the back seat with her. I got in the front seat with the pastor of the church. And we were going down toward the place where we were going to check us into the little cottage we were going to stay in. And she was back there whispering. Cheryl was talking to her. And after we got there and checked in, went priest that night, and then we came back, Cheryl told me, she said, you know, he's the problem. I said, what do you mean? She said, well, she's had surgery twice on her throat already. And now then she's waiting to have surgery the third time. And this time they're going to take out her vocal cords and she won't be able to talk at all. And she was a beautiful singer, had been. But now she can't sing. But here's what the woman does. Now women, you need to listen to this very closely. They had 4 sons. 4 sons, grown boys. She'd raised 4 grown boys. So when you raise 4 grown boys, let me tell you, mama becomes a dictator in the home. You have to become a dictator to raise 4 boys. So she had let this drop over to her husband. So when they get in the car, they'd start off and she said, now honey, you need to turn right there. This, you know, we're going down to the restaurant, turn right there. Well, he's been to the restaurant 50 times. He knows to turn right there, but he don't say nothing. And then she gets around the car, she said, yeah, you're approaching the corner a little too fast. Slow down. You need to get in the right lane. And all the time his blood pressure is going up and up and up. And he knows how to drive. I noticed this myself even the day we were there. And so I finally told her, I said, ma'am, does your husband ever go anywhere by himself? She said, he sure does. I said, does he get home? She said, well, he always has so far. I said, then why don't you keep your mouth shut and let him drive? Why don't you try keeping your mouth shut and let him drive? He said, you know, this just builds up in me, and this is what happened. She's telling him what to do until he gets up to here, and when it blows out the top, he runs at her and said, woman, you're my problem. Your mouth is my problem. And he's speaking a curse over his own wife. Your mouth is my problem. And he'd get angry with her. And so she'd had surgery 2 times. And now the other Assembly of God churches have sent a donation. All of them together have sent a $5,000 donation for her to go to a doctor and have a $15,000 surgery to remove her vocal cords, and the devil's killing her. And nobody is smart enough to understand what's going on. And Cheryl and I met with them the next day, all afternoon long, and explained to them what they were doing to each other. How she was condemning him, and he was speaking a curse upon her. A man and a woman married together with 4 grown kids, and they're killing each other. Because they're not walking in love. And so they both repented in tears that day. They saw their problem. And that night, we were going to speak again at his church. And after repenting and praying the prayer of faith for them, Cheryl invited her. When Cheryl stood up to sing a song that night, she looked out and said, won't you come here and sing with me? So she came up and she sang. And she could be heard pretty good. She couldn't hit the high notes, but she could sing really well. And after I spoke, Cheryl was going to sing one more time. She told her, said, come up here and sing again with me. And she came this time, and she hit every high note and sang everything. And the church stood up and gave Jesus a standing ovation. Isn't that awesome? Now, can we kill each other in the church? Yeah. Yes, we can. See, sometimes you have to learn to just keep your mouth shut. Now, I realize for some of you women, no, I'm not going to say some of you women. I'm going to say all of you women. All of you women have to get a hold of this. It's very difficult to let your husband be the spiritual leader in your home and not tell him what to do and how to do it. But you let him do what he's designed to do. You don't try to tell him what to do. You just love him Be patient and kind with him, and let him be the spiritual leader. Once in a while, if he asks your advice about something, then give it. And don't go into a long 30-minute detail. Just when he asks your advice, just tell him what you think, and then back off and let him do the rest. And you won't have these problems. You won't have them. I mean, every man in here knows that if your wife is the kind of woman that tells you, and every one of you women do to a degree, tell your husband how to do things. I'm going to tell you, some of you, if you could go back and look, you don't know how many men I've sat down with, and they said, well, I put up with that nonsense for 10 years, or I put up with it for 20 years, and then I couldn't stand it no longer. I divorced my wife. Why? Because she told me, tried to tell me everything to do. It didn't matter what we went to do. She's constantly badgering me. She would never let me do things on my own. Who is that that's speaking through your mouth? The devil. Sure, it's the devil. It's the devil.